Hey everyone and welcome. My name is Dr. Heather Carden and I'm coming to you live from Ask Dr. Heather, where I am here to help you understand and find tools how to find your own journey towards personal health. So we are all different and unique individuals from top to bottom, inside out, and so one thing doesn't work for everyone. As you probably already figured out that maybe while you're tuning in thinking, you know what? I don't feel good. I don't feel right. Yesterday we talked about adrenal glands, which maybe sparked a little interest. We talked about sleep. We've talked about thyroid. Today we're going to talk about food allergies. It is a hot topic. I let people know I am a child of the 80s, which means I graduated high school and college in the 80s. And if I think back to my elementary days or my high school days, there was no peanut-free zone table. Maybe you can relate the same. Raise your hand and say, nope, there was no peanut-free zone. You know, we could fly in the airplanes. People could smoke on the airplanes. They could crack peanuts wherever they wanted to go. We didn't have all those issues. And we had one nurse for the entire school district. And now, I mean, no one was carrying an EpiPen except for maybe if you're playing on the recess and maybe got stung by a bee. But food allergies are definitely a hot topic. The question is, why are so many people suffering from food allergies? And how do we actually overcome those? So we're just going to touch on a few basic things. So just as everyone's kind of hopping on, a little bit about myself. I am the co-owner of Carden Center for Wellness. I practice alongside my husband, Dr. Ralph Carden. This is our 20th year of practice. A few years ago, I really stepped out of the chiropractic role and really focused more on the health and wellness and nutrition role, because that's where I really felt the calling. People really needed a lot of help trying to figure it out because there's so much information on media that can be super confusing. But one of my favorite things to do in my office is actually checking and seeing if there's food allergies, because it can be a life-changing matter for a lot of people, from either having chronic diarrhea where it actually impairs their life, they just don't eat, they don't go places because they don't know what they can eat and what they can't have, or they have skin reactions, their face is blotchy, or eczema or acne. Those can all be different issues. Or maybe they've got a great dress and then their stomach bloats 3 or 4 inches throughout the day. Those are all signs of having some type of food allergy. So I probably could do a 3-hour talk on food allergies, but I just want to give a little bit of 101, because the skin prick test is archaic, right? If I scratch myself with my comb or with my pen on my skin, I'm going to turn red. If I start dumping in lip gloss or fingernail polish or, I don't know, vinegar, it's all going to turn red. What we need to look at is what's happening to our immune system, our white blood cells, our red blood cells, as food is intact with it. So one of the best tests that we like to do is actually an IgG. So let's talk a little bit about science here. We have 5 different gamma-globulins. Those are what make up our immune system. So we have what's called an IgE. It's a very small population of our blood volume, about 3 to 5%. Think of them like our army. They're our infantry guys. They go out there first. So you come in contact with a peanut or a shellfish, boom, your lip swells up, your throat swells up. Happens very quickly. It's only 5%, again, of our blood volume. We have what's called IgG, which make up 70 to 80% of our overall blood volume. So that's a really large quantity. And they actually come in and activate for anywhere from, 60 to 72 to 96 hours. So if I eat a peanut, I'm just going to use that because that's a top allergen, my body's going to send out some neutrophils, it's going to send out some monocytes, some lymphocytes, it's going to send out some IgGs. And when we're looking at reactions, how fast the reaction happens to the blood cell, the higher the incident of reaction. So that's why oftentimes people say, well, I had ice cream last night and I felt fine. It didn't, and then 2 days later, I don't know what I ate, and all of a sudden now I'm in the bathroom or the toilet, or I have a headache. What happens is our body works very miraculously. So IgEs, about 5%, they come in anywhere from about really 5 to 30 minutes. So that lip swells up, the throat swells up. IgG makes up a large quantity of our blood volume, and so those reactions may build up over time, or what you ate yesterday might not show up tomorrow. So it can be different areas of our body, how they show up. IgA actually line our mucosal membrane, so our nose, our throat, our reproductive canal, those are all IgA. And then IgM are these big tankers. They come along behind, they sweep and they clean up, and they're pretty slow moving. So we generally check. Most people know if they have an IgE reaction, right? They've had some type of throat closure or finger or ear or eye. So we really look at IgG because that's such a large volume of our blood volume. And if you're having something like a peanut allergy, and every time your body's sending out neutrophils and things like that, what you'll see is the neutrophils start to drop, or they'll be hyperreactive, or you'll see eosinophils start to actually be high when they're working. But if they've been working for 10 to 15, 20 years, they'll actually be dropped to the bottom. So let's talk a little bit about some symptoms sorry, that could be related to a potential food allergy. And know that food allergies can lead to disruption of our normal flora. We have billions of critters or gut bugs in our body. We have E. coli, we have anaerobic bacteria, we have aerobic bacteria, we have Candida albicans, we have a ton of different stuff happening in our microflora, our gut terrain. So say that I was just going to eat a grape off my desk, well, my body would send out some things to help protect from any toxins that might be on there. So the more introduction or the more your body has to use its defense, the weaker it gets. So we see a drop in the hematocrit, the hemoglobin, the red blood cells, the white blood cells, the eosinophils, because our body just keeps getting depleted because it's been fighting it. So if you know you've had a dairy allergy and say, oh, when I was a little kid, I had lots of ear infections. I took a lot of antibiotics and, they took my tonsils out and now I'm totally fine. But now I have this gas and bloating, or I don't go to the bathroom all the time, or I have this kind of flushing stuff, or I always have this like scratchy stuff in my throat that really doesn't go away. That's a sign that, your body's super, super smart. It actually tries to move things around. So what one area is being attacked, it may go to another one. So when you're a kid, it could be of your chronic ear infection, but now as an adult, it's actually gut reaction, or it's psoriasis, or it's little bumps upon your skin, because your skin's your largest organ. Your body's got to get out somehow. So either it will happen through your bowels, through your bladder, through your mouth, through your skin. The body's trying to get that stuff out. And if you're putting something in the body that it doesn't like, what happens generally is because we chew our food and then it goes right to our stomach. The stomach dumps in hydrochloric acid, dumps in some B12, and if it can't break it down, then it sends it back up and sends it back down and said, hey, let's try again. So the silent reflux thing that people keep talking about, it really could be a food allergy. Your body's telling you, no, it's like the garbage disposal. You put it down there, it comes back up. You put it down there, it comes back up. So what do? We actually take these proton pump inhibitors. We stop taking the acid, say, you know what, forget it. Don't the acid break it down. Just go ahead and get a go pass ticket. Well, then what happens is that our gallbladder now is responsible for doing all the work the stomach didn't get to do, or we overdump those pancreatic enzymes. And then what happens is once we take something to turn off the acid in our stomach, we actually need acid in our stomach to help break down food allergens and pathogens and, toxic stuff you find on the outside of your fruits and vegetables. It also helps break down the fat out of things like salmon and nuts and olives. It also helps break down the calcium out of red bell peppers and almonds and sardines. We need acid because it churns our food. So if you're putting food in there and it comes back up, could be a potential food allergy. Or consequently, you're putting food in and it gets stuck. Like you're not having regular bowel movements, you're getting bloated, you're getting more gas and it's starting to smell. Your feet start to smell, your armpits start to swell. The body's trying to get it out, but it gets stuck because it's still trying to break it down because the small intestine is responsible for absorption of nutrients. But if you have this amazing, amazing organic broccoli and you don't have a broccoli allergy and then you put a piece of cheese on top, well, your body doesn't say, oh, let me get the calcium and the iron out of the broccoli. All it says is, I don't like the cheese, I don't like the cheese, so it starts attacking the broccoli and you actually don't get the absorption from the black broccoli because the army of your immune system is just attacking the cheese. The same thing happens with a hamburger or pizza. So oftentimes people think, well, I have a gluten allergy, and it actually could be an egg allergy because eggs in almost everything that you bake, right? Or it could be like a milk allergy because that seems to be in lots of things that you bake. So when we start to look at the symptoms, we see it can actually be from our lung or respiratory. So often exercise-induced asthma, seasonal allergies. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. If you know you have a mold allergy, then why would you put moldy food into your body? Or we know that even if you don't have a dairy allergy, dairy is very mucus producing. So if you have seasonal allergies, because the season's coming up, it wouldn't make sense to put in things vinegars and kombucha and milk that actually reproduce, more mucus stuff to your body. So we talked about the bowels a little bit. Maybe you're a person who has chronic UTIs, or you think you have chronic UTIs, but then it never tests positive at the doctor. You have some burning with urination, maybe you have some kidney pain, maybe your urine smells funny, or you have some white castor particles in it. Doctor says, nope, it's not a bladder infection. That's a way for our body to get things out. If they can't get broken down properly on the way through, then your small intestine can't absorb it, then you get things pushed out. Yes, Faith, 100% I support blood allergy testing. So we talked about that in the first couple minutes, and I'll circle back around, so don't let me forget. We also think about our eyes. Like people wake up and like, okay, my eyes are super itchy. Well, these are the living organs that we see. We can't see our liver from the outside, or our heart, or reproductive organs, or our stomach, but our eyes are the only organ we can see. So it can tell a lot about what's happening in your body, or the drip, drip, drip of your nose, or itchy ears, or itchy feet, itchy skin. Any of those things are signs that your body potentially could be, or you could be eating something your body doesn't like. So really, how do we start promoting gut health? There's actually three major roles as I see. Number one, you have to identify what is causing it. So I do support Faith As You Ask is a positive blood test. I like the IgG plus maybe the IgA with it. We also check gut microflora for strep and E. coli and H. pylori and some of those other pathogens. But you can you can really improve your health significantly by doing proper IgG testing. So what we do is we take a panel of the top 100 foods, unless you have a unique diet or vegetarian diet or a kosher or some other type of diet. We just generally check the top 100 foods, and then we check your blood, and the company actually puts your blood in little vials. So your blood with egg plus egg white plus banana plus celery plus all the fruits, all the meats, gluten, rye, oat, barley, beef, tomatoes, peppers, the top 98 foods most people are eating. If the red blood cell blows up and dies, think of that like your nose swelling with an allergy, then it's a positive response. If it actually shrinks up and dies, think about like your chronic sinusitis where it's always stuffy, or constipation, always stuffy. Other word is get is always runny, like your nose running or diarrhea running, or your eyes always weeping, or your skin having stuff, or always sweating. Those are also signs of allergens. So what we do is we just say, does it cause damage to your blood cell? Does it cause a wider red blood cell to blow up and die? Or does it cause it to shrivel up, or called hemolysis? So that's exactly what we do. And the test actually sits there. So if we're testing the 98 foods, we take your blood at the office, we spin it down, we send it to a lab, they actually process it, and they sit there and wait. So it happens in the first 5 minutes, and they know that's an IgE reaction. That's an EpiPen reaction. We need to help the immune system. But if it's something that happens anywhere from maybe after 12 hours, the red blood cell finally blows up and die, or maybe it happens at 84 hours, or maybe it never happens at all, then we know that if it doesn't and survives that, then it's a fine food for your body to absorb. But if it does cause damage, then we know that your red blood cells or your white blood cells actually is causing a food reaction. And so it doesn't always make sense. People are like, well, this doesn't make sense. I thought this was going to be it, and it was this. Because foods come in different categories. They have different macronutrients that all bring them uniquely together. So oftentimes people will say, I know I have an antibiotic allergy to penicillin, but yet they still eat dairy and cheese. Well, where does penicillin come from? Right? It comes from moldy cheese. Or people like, I cannot take that sulfur antibiotic. I've got an issue with it. Well, eggs are sulfur, garlic is sulfur. We can talk about other things are sulfur. It could be sulfur-containing foods. Maybe it comes back everything all yellow, like bananas and squash and egg yolk. Then there's no reason to do dye testing. I don't do red dye testing, blue dye testing, yellow dye testing, because no one should be eating dyes and no one should be eating those preservatives. So we generally don't test for those because we want people eating a clean diet. So number one is really getting the proper testing done, identifying what it is that is causing harm. So maybe constantly sick, maybe you're not having symptoms yet, which can be very, very great, because we know once we start having bloody stools, constipation, runny nose, itchy eyes, chronic vaginitis, that type of stuff, we have 60% damage to the lining of our gut. So you'd rather check it before than later. So if you're not having optimal bowel movements and you're having just random runny noses, that's not normal. That's your body saying it's trying to get stuff out. We have been eating so many artificial things in our diet the last really 20 years when we started packaging food, maybe 30 years if I start to think about it, because back in the day you just pull up a parsnip or a turnip out of the ground, you just eat it, or you go pick up walnuts, or you go hang meat for a few weeks and eat it. When we started pre-packaging food and microwaving food, we actually changed the whole content to the food. So even if it starts out pretty pure, we start doing everything we can, but plus artificial sweeteners, artificial preservatives to make things last longer, that actually throws your body out of balance. So number one, identify what that is, because that's a huge stress for your body. So identify the foods, and then you want to eliminate them out. Then you want to repair the gut. So that's why we look at the microflora. People often make the mistake of just taking whatever probiotic they heard Dr. Mercola, Dr. Axe, somebody on TV, their friend told them. Oftentimes you can actually feed a microbiome in your body. So if you're taking lactobacillus and you have a candida infection and you're drinking tons of kombucha and, doing lots of cheeses and things like that, or apple cider vinegar, you actually can be feeding the yeast. So there's different yeasts that help naturally feed the bacteria or actually kill it off. So think about that. So if you're a person who's been on an antibiotic and it kills the infection, then secondarily you get a yeast infection from it, what happens is you kill the bacteria, but the yeast feeds off the bacteria, and then the whole thing's come back. It probably was never a bacterial infection. It was probably always a chronic yeast infection, but you just keep amplifying it more and more. So Kathy's saying she's allergic to cashews. Kathy, I would not say I'd cut it out is what I would say. So I think the important thing is actually identifying and knowing that it is just a food allergy causing that, so you don't go down the whole steroid reaction or have a whole bunch of gut reaction. So what you want to do is you want to address getting back to normal digestion. So you eliminate the foods, and oftentimes we find a lot of nutrient depletion because the body's been fighting these foods for a long time. We'll just keep talking about dairy. Your body's been sending out stuff to try to break down the dairy, and so what happens is your immune system gets depleted, your stomach is off, it can't really make vitamin D like it should, it can't make magnesium, it's been overstressed out. Or if you're in an environment that's super stressed, it actually can amplify food reactions or food allergies. So don't just think of it all being about tummy. It can be far more than that. So we remove the food, we identify what proper probiotic or prebiotic needs to be implanted, and then we wait for the gut to be normal. So we wait for all the labs to be normal, the white blood cells, the red blood cells, the eosinophils, neutrophils, all that stuff to be normal with probably supplementation because that's the only way to boost it back up. And then you do a provocative challenge because what happens is generally there's just one or two food allergies, but like the broccoli we talked about, the body starts tagging everything. Just think of it like battle or war. So my last name is Carden, and I'm sorry if your name is Jones, but I'm going to grab that. So the Cardens are fighting the Jones, but I grab a couple of doers. That's my maiden name. Well, the Jones don't care. They're just trying to fight the Cardens. They don't care there's a couple doers in there, so your body just fights it. The same thing happens like with gluten. Why is gluten such a big problem today? Because we have non-GMO wheat. I have patients all the time who get super sick on gluten products in the U.S., and they go to Belgium and have a beer and have no problem at all, like no bloody diarrhea, no stomach upset, no migraine, no headache. So what happens is we've had non-GMO food, we bleach and strip our wheat, and then what we're eating really isn't truly wheat or what we're putting in stuff, plus the other food articles. But I've had people say, you know what, I went on the gluten-free diet and I don't feel any better. You told me it was gluten, it was oats, barley, rye, gluten, I've taken it out. But what they do is they substitute it for gluten-free products. So we know carbohydrates release or cause inflammation or just really break down to sugar. So if you replace your gluten-free items and you do all rice items, rice pasta, you do gluten-free pancake mix from Pamela or from Bob's, those are super high in carbohydrates. So yes, you took away what's attacking the body, but you're still dumping in tons of inflammation. So sometimes you will not get the reaction that you want when you eliminate the foods because you replace it with other things that are actually higher in carbohydrates instead of helping reduce the food. So this is where I've used that low carb, high fat, ketogenic diet for years to help really get gut inflammation down. So you take away the foods, then you reduce inflammation, whether it's exterior inflammation from stress at home, make sure people are getting good sleep so the body can repair. And then again, we do a little bit more intermittent fasting, a little bit low carb ketogenic eating, because if you only have to eat 2 to 3 times a day, then your body only has to handle food and do all the nutrients it requires to do food every 3 or 4 days. But if you 3 to 4 times a day, I was trying to read a question, but if you're actually feeding and eating so many times throughout the day, the nervous system is just working and working and working, and then when you go to sleep it's so exhausted that it really doesn't have time to go back to the food allergy, which is a problem, and then you wake up feeling like you've got a hangover or you're super tired. Your body's just depleted because it's working so hard. That histamine reaction truly makes you tired. So I had a terrible time getting rid of sugar. It's probably due to allergens. Faith, you're probably right because gut flora does feed on each other. So what we do is we eliminate the victims or eliminate the things that are harming your body. Your gut is actually the victim. So we eliminate that. We reestablish with a proper probiotic, the proper digestive enzymes. So we can identify, is it a small intestine issue? Is it happening in the liver? Is it gallbladder? Is it pancreas? Is it maybe overworking? Maybe it's your stomach overworking. Lots and lots of different digestive enzymes. So we identify that based on where lab work and based on what tells us to do. This is where functional medicine doctors work. Where do we need to help the body or remove the interference to promote optimal health? Then we often do things like glutathione, glutamine. That's a specific amino acid found for the gut. And then we do supplement to help increase deficiencies. And then we start introducing the foods. When do we do that? Really at about 3 to 6 months. Why so long? Because it takes about 180 days to make new red blood cells. So if I tell Kathy today, Kathy, you have a dairy and an egg allergy, I need you to eliminate that, everything associated with it for the next, really next 6 months. But maybe in 3 or 4 weeks, she's like, you know what? I'm not really feeling much better. I'm going to go ahead and have that cake, which had dairy and egg in it. Well, she just lost her 21 days. She was working on clean, healthy red blood cells. So you often don't see that big turnaround really till about 90 days. Some people see it at 60 days. So often people will come to me, I just chose to do a gluten-free diet. I chose to remove it. I did it for 5 or 6 days. I didn't feel any better. Think about that IgG. It's 80% of our blood volume, and it lasts sometimes up to 96 hours. So you've got to give it time, especially if your bowels are slow when they're not moving. If your food is sitting in your body and not evacuating, our bodies are 98-degree ovens. That's where all that yeast and microflora, and then the yeast feeds the Epstein-Barr, and then we just get this whole host of parasitic and yeast infections. So it is super important to actually see what potential food allergies you have, because it's often not what you think. I have people all the time, I ask them intuitively, what do you think it is? Or have a food diary before they come in. When are your headaches happening? When's that scratchy throat happening? How are your bowels? And I really want people to kind of be their own detective so they can actually start to get in tune with their body and really see what's happening there. So food allergies have been one of my favorite things to actually help, because we know that we have to eat in order to make our body's own natural pharmacy, our body's own natural hormones to do the normal repair process. But if we're eating this lovely decadent salmon with this lovely organic broccoli, and you're putting a piece of Velveeta, or even maybe it's organic cheese you're putting on top, but your body says, I can't digest that. I have what's called a polydisaccharide deficiency, which means I don't have the enzymes to break down milk. As a baby with no teeth, I had that enzyme to break down milk, but I couldn't break down eggs. So think about that. So babies can digest milk, right? They don't have the enzyme to digest eggs until after the age of 2, when they start to get some teeth. So we need to go back again to that basics. When we get our 5-year molar, our 10-year molar, that's when you really start chewing big parts of meat. So I always suggest parents do a lot of healthy plant fats, a little more on the vegan side, or pesco veg, where they start doing some white fish and some red fish, because pork is hard to digest for some kiddos because the guts are off. Or think about your own childhood. Did you have a lot of tonsillitis or have your tonsils removed? Did you have, a lot of ear infections? Did you have acne through middle school and high school or college? Did you have mono at that age? Did they give you a bunch of antibiotics? All those things lead to the whole gut being out of balance, or being, again, the microflora being not optimal, which means we can't absorb the nutrients that we need to absorb, like calcium, magnesium, potassium, molybdenum. And if our body can't break that down, then we can't make the hormones that we need. So we start to see people being very, very macronutrient depleted. So where do you start? Find a healthcare provider in your area that understands what your healthcare issues are, or look at yourself and say, you know what, I actually feel pretty good. That's okay. I would start to say, let's look at things before they start to get out of range, before you start to have symptoms. And as it comes to allergy season in the Midwest, start to really recognize, like, is that happening because the walnuts are now, because we have walnut trees in our backyard. I have a child with a walnut allergy, and someone talked about cashews. We can't control what we breathe in, but we can control what we put in our mouth. Or if you suspect it's a food allergy, you can actually just tape it on your skin, on your tummy, and see in the morning if it causes a reaction, not from the Band-Aid, if it causes some type of redness. Your body will react to what it will react to. That's why the scratch test is so archaic. The pinprick on the back, I'll have patients say, oh, everything was positive. Well, of course it was. You actually ripped your skin open. Your body's supposed to send these natural enzymes and anti-inflammatory things. It's supposed to turn red. That's how your body heals. So just think, if they didn't do a food allergy test, but you cut your arm, it's going to turn red because you're sending all that platelets and everything else there to help protect that and heal. So that's why I'm not a super fan of the scratch test. I am a super fan of having the IgG lab test done. I love people checking Candida, IgG, IgM, and IgG or IgA, because IgA lines the mucosal membrane, so the nose, the mouth, the esophagus, the digestive tract, and the vaginal canal. So that's all IgA. So chronic sinusitis, chronic like laryngitis, or probably more of that gas and bloating stuff. If food's sitting there and fermenting, then it's going to turn into some type of gut yeast. So, Kathy, I love that light bulb moment, and that is oftentimes people like, I don't even think she's saying was valuable. And then something I said, like, you had me at chronic ear infections, you had me at acne. So we actually had, things happen in your life. So my son at the age of 4, my third son, I have 4, actually got super sick. I knew when I was nursing, he didn't really handle blueberries. He used to get a blueberry buckle rash, we called it. My uncle has a blueberry farm, so he would have a diaper rash if I ate blueberries in nursing. And he didn't really tolerate dairy very well, and I didn't tolerate dairy very well. So I was pretty much dairy-free with all my kiddos, but maybe an occasional yogurt because I was craving one, or cottage cheese, but I really kept it out most of the time. And at the age of 4, he actually got poison ivy, and then he got chicken pox, and so I was putting him in the oatmeal bath trying to soothe him down, and then we moved houses, and then, let me see, then I had a baby in July, so my 4th baby, and then in August, his very close sibling went to school. So how does it set off? What is a perfect storm? So for my son, the perfect storm was his immune system had had poison ivy. Then his immune system had chickenpox, which I believe in having it normal. I'm going to put it out there. And then he had the whole emotional thing of switching houses, new toxins. It was a brand new house. We did everything as eco-friendly as we could. And then he started having crazy bloody diarrhea. So we figured out pretty quickly it was gluten. And so I tried to trade soy milk before I knew any different. So my kids actually have helped me many years through my practice to help other people. He had eczema from head to toe because I wasn't re-inoculating. I was taking the foods out, but I wasn't re-inoculating the bowel with the healthy gut flora that he needed. So poison ivy, chickenpox, moved to a new house in May, had a baby brother in July. He just kept getting sicker and sicker. Instead of, bloodied stools once every week, it started becoming every other day. And then he started having nighttime stomach aches. And then his very close brother, number 2 brother, actually went to school and they had never been separated. So that's the perfect storm. He had the mental emotional of having a new brother, moving houses, brother going to school, mental emotional and immune compromise of actually, having the other issues. So what we thought first is that he was actually diabetic because he was having increased urination, increased thirst. We know there's 6 genetic markers for diabetes as there is for gluten or celiac. So we did the proper testing, the same one I'm telling you. It came back gluten, and this thing was like 900. So we had everybody checked, including my husband. So my ancestry are German. I am an O-type blood type, so I'm a hunter-gatherer. I'm not positive to gluten or anything else. Positive to some of the nightshades like tomatoes and garlic and milk, but all my other boys are positive. I did not wait for them to all get sick and have 60% damage. I said, I'm going to take this, even though their numbers in the 2 to 300, anything over 199 is positive on the IgG scale, that I knew that I was not going to wait to have 60% damage. We just kept the whole house gluten-free. Oftentimes people will say, you know what, it's just, I'm eating my meals, I'm gluten-free, but you get this genetically. So my husband tested positive. He has an American Indian in his blood. So it makes sense that as an American Indian, he should tolerate corn, right? I am a German, so I actually should tolerate gluten much better, or wheat. And that's exactly how it is. So it was an amazing light bulb moment for my family as well. And again, when people often ask, well, do I need to get the other siblings test? Who do I need to test? I kind of look at mom and dad if it's a kiddo and go, you know what? Did you have any of this stuff growing up? Do you recall having this? Are you tired now? Are you having gas and bloating? Are you having some of these signs? And I have a pretty big questionnaire, so it really hones it down to endocrine or hormonal or skin, the integrative system. So I really kind of narrow it down. But usually there's a parent pointing at somebody like, yeah, so my husband was positive. All my 4 boys are positive. I was not positive. However, the whole house went gluten-free. We did not do barley oats. We still don't have gluten-free. I'm so thankful for a spiralizer. I have still not tried Miracle Noodle. So our journey started a long time ago. Christian will be 20 years old. 20 years old this Friday. So this happened when he was 4 years old. So 16 years ago today, we have been gluten-free, soy-free, dairy-free for more than that. And really that's where our whole journey started. And there was no pancake mix to buy. I bought a bread machine. I was trying to make everything. I just said, we're just going to go back to eating veggies and meats, and that's exactly what we did. And my kids have not been immunized. I think we've had 1 strep throat, maybe 2 in all the years of all my 4 kids. Everybody still has their tonsils. So that's just kind of my little story and my little journey, how food allergies really came to be significant. But it is the #1 game changer for kids who are failure to thrive. The immune system is so busy, so we recognize what the food allergies are. We take them out, and kiddos grow 4 to 5 inches in a very short period of time. And I'm talking like over the summer, or over a 6-month period, and maybe they hadn't grown in 2 to 3 years. And this is real data that happens in our office. Our people, you want to get the food allergies before they turn into something autoimmune like ulcerative colitis or eosinophilia esophagitis, which is just a food allergy to me, or rheumatoid arthritis. 100% of our patients with dermatomyositis, that's where the skin starts to peel off and attack itself, we identify what are you putting in the body that the body is attacking, and for you it's coming out in your skin. For rheumatoid arthritis patients, it's coming out in their joints. For ulcerative colitis, it's actually attacking the gut because those IgMs are everywhere in our body, and the IgA are in those gamma-globulins. So hopefully I brought a little bit of clarity, or maybe I just made a lot more confusion about what's happening. But I do want to say thank you guys for joining me. I love talking about food allergies, and get the right testing done. I haven't seen significant changes with people doing the scratch test on the back or the arms. The NEAT test, I saw somebody check about that. I haven't seen the data that says, okay, here's any AT. I'm going to go through some muscle testing, and I'm probably going to get some messages on this. And I do muscle testing in my office. I do applied kinesiology, but I do not use it for food allergy testing. I actually use it as a point of reference to tell me where the body needs to go. So if I muscle test thyroid, then we do the blood work properly for thyroid. If we get gut, then we look at what's happening with the gut. If you're having all these symptoms, then we go ahead and either do a stool analysis or we go ahead and check for food allergies, because there are so many tools and resources out there that are, I'm going to say, not covered by insurance, but can be life-changing to help you optimize your body. So you do not need to accept that it's normal to have allergies. You don't need to accept it's normal to have a scratchy throat and sinusitis 24/7. It's not normal to have red bumps and eczema all over your skin. Your body's trying to tell you something. So what I want you to do is listen to your body, see what it's telling you, or pretend to be a vet. And I think vets are the smartest ones. They look at the teeth because that's a reflection of what's happening in the gut. They look at what's happening on the inside. They look at the scalp. They look at the tail, and they look at the poop of an animal. I am a farm girl from Kansas, so that tells a lot about what's happening. So you hear people talking about bowel movements as poop and toilet. It's a real thing, because what you're putting here has to end up in the toilet. What happens between the mouth and the toilet or the bathroom tells us a lot about how the gut is digesting or what it's not digesting. So lots of information there. So it should be normal and brown like everyone says. You should have a bowel movement once to twice a day. If you're not, it is not about fiber, guys. I know everyone's been brainwashed about don't have fat and have all this fiber. If you actually eat fat, it actually lubricates your bowel and helps things slide out much easier, and really making sure that you have a nice balanced diet with lots of healthy greens, whether half raw, half cooked, sauteed, steamed. I don't care how you get your veggies, get them in there. They are little Brillo pads that help scoot up and bind up and help move out bacteria and unwanted toxins and really replenish that trace minerals that our body is mostly missing. So thank you guys for popping on and saying hello from wherever you are. I always invite you to share and like my page, with other people. My goal at the mission at the top is ask, act, achieve. So you guys ask, I want you to act on it. Maybe it's not you, maybe it's someone you care about, and I want you to achieve your health goals. This is Dr. Heather from Ask Dr. Heather saying have an amazing evening, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.